but today's Open, dedicated to the National Football Conference, better known to you and yours as the NFC. And the teams that could potentially take down Philly will not only be the NFC favorite, but obviously now the favorite after winning Super Bowl 59 in dominant fashion to win Super Bowl 60. So I'm going to roll through the top of the odds board. We'll get to as many teams as we can here. And I will close this segment talking about the two teams that I like the most right now at price in the NFC to beat Philadelphia. And we'll start with the team that bested Philadelphia for home field advantage in the NFC playoffs this year. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and the Detroit Lions. Lions currently 8-1 to win Super Bowl 60 at BetMGM. So there are some positives here, right? I mean, the team is absolutely stacked. The roster is awesome, especially on offense, especially on the offensive line. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be back healthy. Obviously, pending the offseason, but, maybe he would have returned for the Super Bowl if the Lions had made it. They didn't. They lost to Washington in embarrassing fashion. But Aiden Hutchinson going to be back. You would think that Brad Holmes, the outstanding Lions GM, is really going to spend a lot of draft capital trying to get some more quality on that defense. And you would also think that the Lions will have better injury luck next season than they had this season, where basically the entire defense is hurt. And I kind of gave Detroit an out for that loss to Washington in the divisional round. I don't know how you're expecting them to play great defense when basically every good defensive player is hurt. Is it possible that happens again? Yeah, like anything's possible. But it's unlikely that Detroit faces the same type of injury situation next year that it did this year. The big-time negative, though, obviously for Detroit, and allow me to be, I don't know if I'm the first person to say it, one of the first people to say it now that the 2024 NFL season is over, but approximately 700 billion people will say it this offseason. And everybody's right. It's a problem that the Lions lost both of their coordinators to head coaching jobs. Ben Johnson now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Aaron Glenn now the head coach of the New York Jets. Now, you watch the show, you listen to the show. You know that I love Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's the absolute best. I think he's so awesome. You know what else is awesome? All those really cool Ben Johnson play calls. We're going to fake a fumble against the Chicago Bears and just stunt on everybody. That's pretty good. You still going to get that with Detroit now? With the offensive mastermind now the head coach of the Bears? I'm not so sure. Aaron Glenn, leader of men. And people want to bash Aaron Glenn for how the season turned out. Again, you try coordinating a defense against Jaden Daniels with no good players. I think Aaron Glenn was a badass defensive coordinator. Love me some Ben Johnson. I think the Lions are going to be good. This isn't, hey, I think Detroit's going to suck, come in last. Just that at 8-1 with two new coordinators. Jared Goff is the quarterback, and I like Jared Goff a lot. I have since he was his final year at Cal, when I bet Cal's win total over. I'm a Jared Goff fan. I don't like Jared Goff as much as some of the best quarterbacks in the conference. I will pass on the Detroit Lions. How about the team that beat the Lions in last year's NFC Championship game? The San Francisco 49ers. San Fran at 14-1. And I want to give a tip of the cap to our BetMGM. Caught myself there. Did it once in New Orleans. It wasn't great. Our BetMGM network teammate from BetSweats, Joe Ostrowski. I'm on Instagram before. I see a BetMGM network post because we post 9 million times a day, and we should. That's a great job by our team. And it's Joe talking about why he doesn't like the Niners coming into this season. And I basically agree with everything Joe said. And I'll paraphrase it. Deebo Samuel's going to be out. We know the Niners wanted to get rid of him last offseason. They're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. I don't think Brock Purdy's that great. I think he's good. I don't know if his upside is to be as good ever as like Jalen Hurts, or certainly not Jaden Daniels. So I don't like that. A bunch of key defensive players are free agents. I like the Rams more, assuming the Rams keep Matthew Stafford in that division, than I do the San Francisco 49ers. I will pass the Niners at 14-1, although I do like them bringing Robert Saleh back. Seriously, as defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, not a good head coach, pretty damn good defensive coordinator. I do like that for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's skip ahead at 25-1 to the Los Angeles Rams. If you guaranteed to me Matthew Stafford will be back as Rams quarterback next year, oh, hell yeah. We can definitely have a Rams conversation. But the rumor mill has already started churning, and the dots have already started to be connected. Matthew Stafford elsewhere, most notably my New York Football Giants. And I'm on record saying, I said it yesterday, I want nothing to do with Matthew Stafford as my quarterback. Not that he's not awesome, but the Giants are not ready to win. They need to get a young quarterback in there, and let's build this up. But that is about the Giants, who are obviously winning nothing next year. If you told me Stafford's definitely back and Cooper Kupp can be lost, and that's fine because Kupp wasn't good at the end of the year, awesome young defense. If you told me Stafford was definitely back, the Rams are definitely one of the teams I like. But until we know that for sure, no way I can get behind the Rams at 25-1. How about the Minnesota Vikings? 35-1. My issue with them, J.J. McCarthy's likely to be the quarterback next year. Not that J.J. McCarthy can't or won't be awesome, just, and I'll ask this question, and I think I'm right, like what's the ceiling for the Vikings next year with J.J. McCarthy? Like probably what it was this year, right? Like monster regular season and losing the playoffs. I think it's way too much to ask for the Vikings to like win a Super Bowl in J.J. McCarthy's rookie year. I'll pass on the Bears at 40, even though I like Ben Johnson. I think it'll take them a little bit to get rolling. And I'll pass on the Falcons at 60, year 2 with Michael Penix, first full year as the starter, because Raheem Morris can't manage the clock. And that leaves us with 2 teams that I love above all others, other than the Eagles in the NFC. Number 1, Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, 20-1. There's no way that they can be worse this coming season, given they basically have no talent on the roster outside of the quarterback. They obviously have some good players, but I mean, 1 through 53, that is not a great roster. And Jaden Daniels is still the best quarterback in the conference. I got a lot of angry Eagles fans chirping me, saying, hey, you want to say Jalen Hurts is better than Jaden Daniels now? No. And here's why. And let's tell the truth. If Jaden Daniels was the Eagles quarterback, would the Eagles have still won the Super Bowl? Be honest. Yes. If Jalen Hurts had been Washington's quarterback all year, do the Commanders make the NFC Championship game? Be honest. No. No. And Jalen Hurts is awesome. I'm not hating on him. I love him more than almost anybody. But again, let's be honest here. No way. Best quarterback in the conference. Better team coming up next year. Washington at 20-1 certainly has caught my eye. But my absolute favorite above all else, another team at 20-1. That Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay's losses this past season. 5 points to the Eagles in week 1 in Brazil. 2 points to the Vikings in the Jordan Love return game where Love's not healthy. 10 at home to the Lions in a game they statistically dominated but got no 4th down conversions. 3 at Detroit on Thursday Night Football. 2 at Minnesota at the end of the year. Now, Week 18 against the Bears is bad, and then they turned it over a million times and lost by 12 to a team that dominated the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Another year for Jordan Love. Get some better health. Get another outside receiver because you can't count on Christian Watson. I think the Green Bay Packers are primed and poised for an awesome, awesome year next year. And I think the Packers are the team the Eagles need to fear the most heading into the 2025 NFL season. Baltimore plus 700. Buffalo plus 750. For context, Kansas City is plus 750. So right now, BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas, has the Ravens as the most likely team to win the AFC and get to Super Bowl 60. To which I say, really? Like, come on, everybody. No, like, seriously. How many years have we done this with these two teams, with Baltimore and with Buffalo? I really think that we collectively, all of us here that love sports, we love football, we love to bet. We love to bet on football. We need to band together as a community, hand in hand. Friends don't let friends bet the Ravens or Bills to win the Super Bowl. because I care about you, our audience. I don't want you to throw your money away betting on John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. I don't want you to flush your money on the toilet betting on Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. And just to be very, very clear about this, in no way am I suggesting that the Bills and the Ravens or the Ravens will be bad next season. On the contrary, I think both teams are going to be awesome. I mean, like, what's the minimum number of games, assuming health, obviously, primarily for the quarterbacks? What's like the minimum number of games Buffalo and Baltimore win next year? Minimum. 10? 10-7? Minimum. Absolute minimum. I think more likely, like, we're probably in the range for both teams of like 11 to 13 wins. 14 or 15 on the high end for both of those teams. But let's say the range is like 11 to 13. Obviously, both teams will go to the playoffs, like presuming health for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are going to be in the thick of the MVP race again, just like they were this year when they finished 1 and 2. And Allen's great. And Lamar's great. And Harbaugh's a great coach, and I think Sean McDermott's a very good one. So again, this is not saying these teams are bad. But the conversation is not, are they going to win double-digit games, get to the playoffs, the quarterbacks be in the MVP conversation at the end of the season? That's not the conversation. The conversation is win the Super Bowl. And the fact of the matter is, year 8 coming up for McDermott and Allen, year 8 coming up for Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, they haven't even gotten to a Super Bowl. And how many times do we need to see these two teams fall flat on their faces before we collectively band together and say, no mas? That's a Roberto Duran reference, since we were talking boxing earlier, for people that don't know. Shout out to the real ones that got it. Now, I reserve the right to change my mind if extraordinary circumstances happen to come up, like Patrick Mahomes shatters his leg and can't play in the playoffs. Something of that ilk happens, and the Ravens and Bills, and we can say, and we can be honest and objective and say, like, okay, like, now something's changed, and maybe they can get to and win the Super Bowl now. Like, something can happen. I reserve the right to change my mind, but I can't imagine that happening this season, barring something unforeseen, and certainly not at these prices for these two teams that are awesome teams that win a ton of regular season games, but again, when they get to the end and it's prime time and it's time to put your big boy pants on, they lose. And that's not me being mean. That's not me like saying it's a hot take. It's a fact. Like, the sun's going to come out tomorrow. Grass is green. Water's wet. The Bills and Ravens both lose in the big spot. All of these statements, absolutely true. So no way, no how at these prices for Buffalo or Baltimore. Rip through a couple other contenders before we get to teams that I really like at price right now in the AFC. How about the Los Angeles Chargers? 25-1. I love me some Justin Herbert. I love me some Jim Harbaugh. What I love about the Chargers the most is how poorly they played in the wild card round, so I got to win my bet on the Houston Texans. I really appreciate that. Chargers will be better next year. Obviously need to get some more explosion on offense, and you would think with Jim Harbaugh kind of running the show that, like, why can't that happen? Harbaugh's obviously awesome, and Herbert's a really good quarterback. Now, the thing that holds me back from the Chargers, and we'll talk about this with the Broncos as well, another playoff team out of the AFC West, like, they share a division with the Kansas City Chiefs. In all likelihood, Kansas City's going to win the division. Not definitely, but, like, we're betting, right? You have to bet on it. You probably bet Kansas City, right, to win the division, which means that if the Chargers were to get to the Super Bowl, they probably have to win 3 road games. Tough to sign up for that, right? Also, and not that this can't turn around, but we can't ignore the 2 data points we have on Justin Herbert in the postseason. An epic second-half collapse in the wild card round a couple years ago against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then a billion turnovers like less than a month ago against the Houston Texans in the wild card round. So, like, I like the Chargers. I think they'll probably be a playoff team next year. 25-1. I need a better price than that for the Chargers. Couple other quick ones. Denver at 40-1. I'm a Bo Lever. I love me some Bo Nix. Everybody knows that. I bet him to an offensive rookie of the year last year at 18-1. I won $0 on that bet. I lost money, but still. I think Bo Nix is really good. They made the playoffs. Love me some Sean Payton. Also, like, I prefer the Chargers to the Broncos. Not a hot take, right? Herbert's ahead of Bo Nix at this point in both of their careers, and I like Bo Nix. Also, Denver likely, if they're going to get to the Super Bowl, have to win 3 road games. I don't like that. The Miami Dolphins are 40-1. They actually offend me as a football team. They offend me as a man. They're a soft-ass team. They ran Vic Fangio out of town because he coached them too hard. Same thing with Brian Flores. They can't run the ball. They can't play in the cold. I think they're tremendous losers. I actually dislike them. The Steelers at 80-1. Who's the quarterback? Is it Russell Wilson? No way. Justin Fields? Absolutely not. Aaron Rodgers? Slightly interesting. Needs some help at the receiver position. Who's number 2 opposite George Pickens? Does George Pickens have his head screwed on straight? So, I would like Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. But do I love Pittsburgh? I can't say I do. Colts at 100-1. GM Chris Ballard said literally today that they're going to bring in competition for Anthony Richardson because Richardson hasn't shown he can play 17 games yet. Does that sound like a Super Bowl team to anyone? Jaguars at 100-1. Can we see Liam Cohen coach a game? I like Mike Vrabel and Drake May. Probably too early for the Super Bowl. I like Aaron Glenn. I think they're going to be bad next year. On and on down the bad teams in the AFC. Which brings me to the 2 teams that I like at price right now. One of which I really like, and I'll save that one for last. But the one that I am waiting to see what happens with the offseason is the Cincinnati Bengals at 18-1. Burrow has stood toe-to-toe with Mahomes, has beaten Mahomes on a number of occasions, including in the biggest spot. Al Golden's in as the defensive coordinator. You would think the defense is going to be better next year because how could it be worse under Lou Anarumo? I know Jermaine Pratt asked for a trade. Who cares? Great. I think Cincy's defense will be better next year. Now, you got to find a way to keep T. Higgins there. Obviously, make Jamar Chase happy. I'd love for them to keep Trey Hendrickson. If the Bengals have a good offseason and approach it the right way, they can absolutely challenge the Chiefs, and the price is right at 18-1. But the team that I like the most at price, and I thought Femi did a great job talking about this team on Monday's edition of the show, it's the Houston Texans at 25-1. Already have a Super Bowl caliber defense with tremendous pass rushers and a great defensive head coach in D'Amico Ryans. Now, I'm happy Bobby Slowick's out because I did not like the way Slowick called that offense. Obviously, you'd like for Diggs to be back. We don't know if Tank Dell's going to play next season, so C.J. Stroud needs a little help. But Stroud obviously has the ability to be a top-flight quarterback. He did regress in year 2, but I like a new variable now with a new play caller coming up for the Texans. And again, Super Bowl caliber defense already there in Houston that beat the crap out of Mahomes in the divisional round. So my favorite team right now at price in the AFC to potentially usurp Kansas City for conference supremacy, C.J. Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, and the Houston Texans at 25-1.